such widespread death. As beautiful as humanity is at times, we are also deeply messed up, too helpless for anything less than the rescue of a God. Never again would I look into a body of Christians with the delusion that most of us were mostly okay. By Saturday, I had spent close to 60 hours working. My neck was stiff and every muscle in my body hurt. So when a team of men hung those hulking frames from our sanctuary walls, I could barely lift my chin to see the result. Yet, as they flipped on the backlights, I was floored. It had worked. 2,000 sorrows exploded into bursts of color and light. Cadmium yellow centers, orange and crimson flames, cool recesses of green, pools of blue and violet. Could redemption really be so beautiful? When our worshipers walked into the sanctuary on Easter, they didn't know what we had prepared, but as we lowered the room lights and illuminated the windows, they gasped. After church was over, they lingered in the sanctuary an hour or more, wandering until they found the tiny words that they had written. Then they looked outward, finding their confessions surrounded by the confessions of others, and realizing they weren't alone. The whole conversation was entirely anonymous, and yet it felt so intimate. Friends threw arms around one another and prayed together, whispering. Others stood with their heads bowed. Some knelt. Eventually, the pastors decided to open the church during non-service hours so members could take time to process what we had discovered about ourselves and one another. In some ways, I was reminded of New Yorkers post 9/11. Do you remember those first desperate hours, how strangers moved toward one another, bleeding and crying, leaning on one another's strength to walk through the rubble? Mass tragedy has a way of exposing our common frailty, and in such intersections of human tenderness and horror, all shields are down. Here, at last, we can confess, the world is broken, and I am broken, and my need is dire. Lonely in a sea of faces. When life is going well, most of us keep hacking away at daily life with all our troubles packed deep inside us. Sometimes our stories are too heavy and too complicated to talk about. Maybe we don't think anybody will listen or care, or maybe we've already tried friendships that didn't work. Some of us are working too many hours to even think beyond this week. So here we are, surrounded by people from early morning till late at night, but never really knowing or being known. In fact, Americans are more lonely now than at any point in our national history. According to Janice Shaw Krause, senior fellow at the Beverly LaHaye Institute, more than 1/4 of Americans claim to have no one with whom they can talk about their personal troubles or triumphs. If family members are not counted, the number doubles to more than half of Americans who have no one outside their immediate family with whom they can share confidences. Think about that. More than half of us. This epidemic of loneliness is no respecter of milieu. While we might expect isolation in a big city, even in a tight-knit rural community, it's possible to feel like an outsider. Strong roots grow deep in small groups, but so do scars. If you've ever had to start over at ground zero of a small-town relational breakdown, you know how exhausting that whole process is. You have to get your nerve up to go to the grocery store because there's no telling whom you'll meet in the cereal aisle. Recovering local might make you stronger in the long run, but day in, day out, up-close survival wears you out. Zooming out a bit more, social media can turn our lives into a lonely flurry of superficial interaction. We post pictures, chat, debate, rant, and empathize. We try to impress. We try to persuade. Yet in the thinness of these constant, disposable connections, the deeper needs of our souls are rarely satisfied. 24-hour access to dialogue doesn't always equal 24-hour access to true friendship. One night I was sitting in my bed, scrolling through social media while my husband sat next to me, reading on his phone. I wish I could tell you that this evening routine is rare for us, but it's not. We both work long hours, and by the end of the day, we're shot. The internet isn't good.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.